Howdy ho. The sun's coming out. That's a big deal up in here. It's been a while. I hope y'all are doing well. I know the holiday seasons can be quite turbulent. Some of the best joy and some of the most not that. So I hope you're finding rest and rejuvenation. Today I want to share with you a meditation that I do. This is the big money one. This is the one that I love the most. It's incredibly valuable to me. It's beautiful. And I would like to share it with you. I like to call this meditation the Fortress of Love. So yeah, I'll begin my meditations where I just sit with myself. And I know that sounds dumb, but it's something that I think we really neglect to do in today's society, is just sit with yourself. And I'll try and take a zoomed out perspective of what it is that I am feeling, what it is that I'm thinking. Sort of an impartial view, right? I'm just taking note of the thoughts that I'm having, not trying to change them, not trying to put myself in any sort of state. I'm just noticing where I'm at. And one of the key things about this is to focus on your breathing. I don't want to say you're thinking about that, but that is what your attention is on, right? Is your breathing. And then just take note of the thoughts that come, the feelings that come, and think like, wow, that's interesting. And then go back to the breathing, okay? And do that for a while. I think it's good for you. Kind of helps you, put some perspective on where you're at. Notice the loops that you're trapped in, and, it's good for you. A lot of the times that state for me, or that process for me, will transition into a state where I'm not really having any thoughts, and that's a beautiful place to be if you've never been there. And then a lot of the times I will shift focus and start doing visualization meditation. Hallucinations, if that's what you want to call it. And that is what I'm going to share with you today, is a visualization meditation. Okay, and the backstory on this bad boy is it comes from my son. There was one day we're sitting on the river, making castles, fortresses, and I'm like, dude, what's your castle? And he just looks at me just so dead-faced and was like, Mom, this is a fortress of love. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that's cool. Right on. That's the fortresses I like. And then he proceeded to take little sticks. And each stick was, a person that he knew. And he would tell me, this is blah, blah, blah. And then he would put it into his fortress. And he did it for literally every single person that he could think of. There's 100 sticks in there. And I think that there's something just so poetic about that. That's freaking beautiful. Okay? And one of the things about being a mom is I keep having these experiences where I just get these flashes of okay, here's this being, and they are so pure and so good, and I just see it so freaking intensely, okay? And it's both my children, all the time. I get these little glimpses, and I'm like, holy shit, that's beautiful. They deserve to have the most love, the best things, because they are so pure and good. Okay? That's where this is going. This is where the meditation came from, okay? So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm in a really chill, relaxed state, right? And I'll imagine that I am a fortress. Sometimes I'll go into great detail about what my fortress looks like and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now the fortress, this is important. The fortress is you, but it also is, your community. The world at large is the fortress. It's you. It's everything. And then I'll imagine like what I want within my fortress. Now, this is really important. I think this is a good exercise for people to do, is think about, like, if you had your castle, your kingdom, what would you want it to be like for the people who live there? For yourself. So I'll imagine what it is that I want in my fortress. Community. I want, people to come together to build things. I want people who look out for each other in my fortress. I want it to be a safe place, really. Like, the only requirement for you to enter my fortress, for you to be a part of it, is kindness. Don't be a jerk. Don't consciously be a jerk. So yeah, my fortress is a safe place. And, people look out for each other there. If your cat dies, somebody's going to bring you cookies. Or whatever it is that you need, they're going to look out for you, okay? In my fortress, education's valued. The sciences and the arts are equally as important. People recognize that you need to have a good balance of both. It's lit. Literally, we light fires and we dance around them. I want that shit in my fortress. Authenticity is valued in my fortress. There's no real, outline of who you need to be to belong, All that you need to be to belong is yourself. The weirder, the better, okay? So yeah, I'll get creative with it, and I'll sit and think about what is in my fortress. And not even just think about it, I'll try to feel what it would be like to have that in existence. We've all been a part of a community somehow, some way. Imagine what that is, what that feels like, what that felt like. Bring it here. Think about what it felt like when somebody looked out for you and brought you cookies when your cat died or whatever. What that felt like to be the receiver, what it felt like, if you've ever done that, been the giver of taking care of somebody. Imagine what those things feel like. Okay, that's what I'm getting at here. Live in it, in your meditative state. And just exist in that place. Get creative with it, My fortress changes day to day. And there's really no bounds to it. It's a form of exploration. So anyways, I'll do that, and, this is where I'm going to lose people, okay? One of the most important parts, probably the most important part of my fortress, are these rainbow gates. I got rainbow gates in my fortress, okay? And the rainbow gates are essential. They're key. Because what they allow me to do is send love out. Love, compassion, like a genuine desire for people to have the good is good. You know what I mean? Like the good for them. Just everything, okay? Rainbow gates let me just send it out to everybody. And they function on the principle of, they work with the knowledge of all people still have that piece of pureness within them. The same as my children, okay? That comes with you. It never goes away. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's inside of all of us. And because it exists within us, all people deserve love. The most base. All people deserve the best. And that's just a basic principle. Okay? We all possess the pureness of a child. Okay? And I can send it out. And that's it. And I will literally sit and imagine what love feels like, what compassion feels like, what a desire for the good is good is, and I just send it. Sometimes I'll send it to people, to everyone. Sometimes I'll pick individual people. And yeah, that's it. That's the fortress of love, okay? Play around with it. See where it goes. Okay, so you might be sitting there thinking like, okay, Lindsay, sure. Maybe everybody possesses this little pure nugget within them that inherently deserves unconditional love, compassion, and the goodest good that can be. But you might also be thinking like, damn, people are assholes. And you know what? You're so right. People are the worst. The best and the worst. And, even within my children, like, the kid who made the castle of love is the same kid that will, in a fit of rage, rip up his art so that I can't have it. The thing that he created. And then he'll writhe around on the ground in anger and be an asshole. Same kid. And the way that I view it is this, that like, we are all these little nuggets of goodness that come to Earth. And then we go through these cycles, karmic cycles. And there's like these layers of ourselves that we have to peel back to get closer to embodying that pureness, that goodness. We all have layers, let me tell you, okay? But my child isn't the asshole writhing around on the ground, no. He is the nugget of pureness. And the assholeism is a layer that he has to peel back. Something he has to deal with in this life. I hope you watch this, bud. I love you. You're good. Okay? So that's kind of the way that I view it. And just because he's being an asshole, I will never withdraw my love or my compassion or my desire for him to have good. That's just unconditional, always. Not to say that I don't hold him accountable for his actions, right? There's a piece of that too. It's like, send out love unconditionally, but don't let people treat you like shit. Don't let the assholeism come back at you and influence your day and your experience. Just because my kid's throwing a temper tantrum on the floor, that is not going to hinder my day. I really don't give a fuck about that. And I will hold him accountable to his actions. So it's all that. Okay. And just briefly, I kind of want to touch on what assholeism is. Welcome to my YouTube channel! You're probably like, what's going on? So anyways, assholeism. The best way that I've had it explained to me is that like all people are in their own bubbles of perception, their own karmic cycles that they're dealing with, right? And like, I think that things from past lives come in, things that you experience from this life. There's these cycles that we're living in. A bubble of perception. And how it works is this, like, people who have experienced a lot of hate, anger, shame, whatever, they internalize it. And within themselves, in their heads, all the places they're living in that space. A lot of the thoughts that they have are hateful, angry, or shameful. A lot of ways that they look at themselves is through that lens of hate, anger, shame, whatever. It's like, and it's completely different to each person. This is, not the end all be all. It's different for everybody. Okay, so essentially it's like people, a lot of the times, when they live in these states, they start to throw it out there. you know? And that's the assholism that I'm talking about. And sure, it's unsavory and it's not comfortable and like, fuck them. But at the same time, there needs to be a bit of compassion because they're living in their own hell. You know what I mean? People, the most critical people, are often, you know, like outwardly, are often so internally critical, it's painful. You know, these people have their own states of pain that they stay in and they loop in, and that's what makes them an asshole. And it's like, damn, that sucks, but at the same time there needs to be like this aspect of compassion because they are living in their own horrible state. And like the child writhing around on the ground, it's like, sure, that sucks. It's not them. I need to have a little bit of compassion because they're going through a horrible experience. But I'm also going to hold them accountable for their actions and simultaneously maintain compassion. It's all of those things. And like, I like to think that my meditation is like that. Like the rainbow gates let the love out, but they don't let it, you know, you recognize that what gets slung back at you, people being assholes, is just a piece of their own cycle. Don't let it influence how you feel within your fortress. Don't let it limit what goes out of the gates. You know, but the fortress is also about like holding people accountable, you know, setting up boundaries that protect yourself. So yeah. And I think that, you know, one of the most important things that we can do for soul growth is this. Look at the things that people sling at you, the assholism, you know, the things that get sent at you, the shame, the anger. And look at the things that trigger you. What does that tell you about yourself? You know, the things that happen to you that caused you to shut down your rainbow gates and to prevent love and compassion and the desire for good. Like, what are the things that stop you from wanting that for people? And I think that that is one of the most important things you can look at for soul growth. And it tells you a lot about your own karmic cycles that you're living in. It's like the first little bit, because it's this weird thing of like, it is very hard to understand, you know, what is going on within your own sphere because you're living in it. It's a lot easier to identify the problems with other people. It's a lot harder because it is your perspective. It's only what you have. And a way to view outside of your own perspective, to get out of your own bubble of perception, your karmic cycles, is to look at the situations, the things that triggered you from not wanting, that trigger you to not want the ultimate love and compassion and the goodest good for people. That is critically important. So yeah, look at it. Hopefully some part of this message resonates with you and you get something out of it. So all the best to you. If you have made it this far, thank you. You're a ride or die. You know, that takes dedication. These videos are long-winded and rambly. So I appreciate you for ending up here. I am putting together the video, and there's one last thing that I want to add to this one, and it's about the bubbles of perception. This is an entire story arc of my life. It was one of the most potent life lessons I've had to learn. It was uncomfortable. So hopefully you can get something out of it without having to go through that. And this is what I learned. Are you ready? I had this experience where I was operating from my bubble of perception. And I had my motives behind my actions, and they were actually pretty good. Like, not to say I'm a perfect person, but generally I have goodwill and intent for other people. 98% of the time. Okay? And what was happening is, like, I was making these actions with my intent, and what was being received by other people was the polar opposite. Like, literally the opposite. People thought that I was intentionally seeking to hurt them. Now, this is multiple people over just like a number of experiences. This isn't like, this was years. I'm a slow learner. Anyways, okay, so I suppose I can give you an example to kind of like help let you know what I'm talking about. So there's this one instance where I was trying to give a compliment to a person who is what I refer to as a Debbie Downer, right? A person who just constantly has nothing good to say. Everything's fucking bad in the world. You know what I'm saying? They're just a real downer. That's what it is. And this person is living in that state of that, like, and that's what they put out there. And I was like, I had this bright idea. I'm like, I'm going to give that person a compliment to try and uplift. But what I didn't realize is that you could throw a million compliments into that, but it's not going to make a lick of difference, because that Debbie Downer is living in the state where everything is horrible, all shit is bad, right? And they're just not going to take that compliment and receive it in any way that's meaningful, because they're living in the state that they're in. So yeah, I gave the compliment, didn't make a lick of fucking difference, just so you know. She's still Debbie Downing, alright? And, so I gave this compliment, and the other person that was there with myself and the Debbie Downer, that person received my compliment as an attack on them, and that's their perspective that they're working with. Like, perhaps they're living in a state where people do that, where people intentionally attack to hurt, and they took that, and that's what they filtered through, and that's what they saw. And me being me, I'm fucking oblivious to it. I had no fucking clue until later. I didn't realize how much that hurt that person, and I felt fucking bad for it, and like these series of events, I was placing my own value in how people were receiving me. They thought I was out to get them, and I thought that I was a bad person because they were perceiving that. And I spent so much time and energy trying to tell them, like, I don't actually intend that, okay? And I was trying to shift their perspective for them, but that's not possible. That was the first thing that I learned, is that people have to come to their own conclusions. They have to pull themselves out of these perceptive cycles that they're in. There is literally nothing that I can do about that. And then the second thing that I realized was that I was placing my own personal value, self-worth, in the hands of people, that were receiving me in negative ways. I felt like I was a bad person. Because these people were perceiving me that way. And eventually I got to the point where I realized that I need to quit fucking doing that, alright? And I realized that what I can do is look at my bubble and take, recognize that I am acting from this space that has good intent. I don't ever actually seek to hurt people intentionally, and to be like, okay, Lindsay, that's valuable. That's where you should place your self-worth. And love yourself for that, and it doesn't matter how other people receive you. So there really is like this sense of liberation that comes from when you realize that you have your own bubble, and you get to choose how you operate within it, and if you can find a way to operate from things that are positive, like having goodwill for other people, seeking to tell the truth, good stuff. If you can find the good stuff, harness it, move from that space within yourself, recognize that you are doing that. It doesn't matter how other people receive what you're doing, right? Because you know who you are and you value what you're doing in the space that you're moving from. And that sounds so simple now that I'm explaining it, but I just can't even explain to you how hard it was for me to come to that space. So, anyways, I love you all, and I hope that you are well. I hope that you can glean something out of this video. Rainbow Gates, baby! Let's get at it! I hope y'all have a wonderful night, whatever time of day it is. It's good. I hope it's good. Bye.